Hello, Ron. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and curious to hear about your experience with playing.
Yeah,
And I may actually ask to be walked through the
sure.
procedure as you currently see it. But
Yeah.
uh, but why don't you begin by talking to me about play?
I had a question first, if you care to answer it. You had recommended me not to play the game at conventions, and I wondered why was that the case? And this is relevant because the um, first one of my sessions that I'm going to tell you about was at a convention. So I want to understand if any of the counter of this negative side effects of playing at a convention that you think could happen or could taint the result happened or not.
Well, it's a cautionary recommendation. It's not as though if you play at a convention, the Furies will descend upon you and destroy
Right.
your game or something. So if it worked out fine, then it worked out fine.
Right.
The reason that I caution against it is that it's very easy to fall into a more uh, pressured sense of presenting something,
Hmm.
and however a person may respond to that, or however they sort of compensate for that, can distort just enjoying playing.
Right.
Now, it doesn't
Um,
have to happen. It's just that it's possible.
right. Yeah.
Um,
So we set
but
that convention up explicitly as like a just play convention.
uh huh.
We're not presenting things. We're not selling things. We're not. And also we had like a rule, which I don't know if everybody followed, but I certainly did, which was that if your game is not ending in the 3 hour slot, you don't make it end. You just like whatever you did in those 3 hours, you end it there. You don't try to force
Right. They are
anything.
what they are. I
Uh,
think that's
they
actually
are what
pretty
they
smart.
are.
Yeah. That's quite a nice thought, actually.
Yeah.
I want to say that you don't have to convince me that this convention experience was okay for our
Right. Yeah.
purposes.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
And then also, I was also going to point out that it's not just the person presenting things or bringing things to the convention slot, but depending on what sort of experience it is for everybody else,
Yeah.
if people hear the words or read the words play test or game in development or something like that, then
Hmm.
you can easily kick in that ever helpful committee member, workshopy
Yeah.
kind of interaction. Now, a general recommendation like that on my part obviously applies generally. So,
Yes.
whatever the
So
particular
that
play here,
actually happened, but not in my session. So I brought the game together with this other guy who's helping me write it. He's mostly helping write the mysteries for it, not really anything about the system. And he brought the game as well. And one of the players in his group of the session that I was actually able to partially observe started doing this type of like kind of workshopy thing at the end. Actually, like I think the play was okay, but there's something that we might want to discuss. But he was sort of high status person in the local community, so he thought he had to give his opinion or whatever, right? So that definitely happened, but not in my games,
right?
fortunately. But anyways, let's start with, I guess, telling you about how the games went. I have two sessions under my belt, plus one that I was able to observe externally in partially at least. So I guess like where do you want me to start? Like, do you want me to tell you like how we set up the beginning of the situation, or like how what the people ended up doing in play, or like what I remember as particularly eventful, or like what I mean? There's so many things to talk about.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my chance.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
so I'd like to know not about preparation, and not about any goals you specifically had. I'd like to know about how and when the players were aware of, well, here's my jargon, their fictional situation,
Mhm.
right? Aware of the larger picture within which any particular scene or decision or play process would occur.
So my feeling was very positive in regards to this, in the sense that I talked to the players during and after the session, and it seemed to me that they understood the situation at almost every point of our session, which was pretty great. I didn't have such a long debriefing for the second session, but you wanted to know the how as well. So I guess like
Well,
the
not when you
situation.
haven't started. I said when and how, not whether.
Oh, when? Sorry, I misheard you. Sorry. When? So I think that happened pretty fast. Like at the beginning, I gave out these pre-generated, pre-made character sheets for the four detectives that are going to be involved in this mystery. Obviously, in a more longer term idea of the game, these could be created at the beginning, but this is a kind of a preset scenario that we've created. So there's already detectives that are associated with the mystery. That's not a necessity of the game. So I gave them out. I let them choose. And then I explained a little bit of this situation that they were going to get thrown into, which is this mystery in which their characters, the detectives, are present. They're present in the place where the crime happens, but they're not involved. Like they don't have personal
Let's
connections to the people involved.
let's get away from all these explanations and presentations. Let's
Right.
talk about when they were talking, not you.
Right. So that happened quite fast. I think there was a beginning scene where I kind of that I used to kind of set the tone for the game, and then after that, which is essentially when the detectives were given the job. Although that was already in the premise that they are willing investigators and they're willingly collaborated. And after that scene ended, I pretty much said, "All right, then, like that now it's the ball is in your hands. You tell me, each of you, whether you want to, what you want to go investigate. Where do you want me to open the next scene?" So that's kind of when they started talking. And I remember in the first session that I did, they were they really liked the idea of going their separate ways. And this is something that at the beginning I explained. There's no necessity that you guys go around as a team. It actually, depending on there might be advantages and disadvantages of investigating separately or as a team. So then each of the detective players told me a place in the castle that I had described that they wanted to go investigate. And then we opened scenes in order. I chose one of them. I don't remember why I chose one of them. Then I opened the scene in this room that he wanted to investigate. I think the first one was the scene of the crime, because obviously that's where they go first. And yeah,
I'm still not okay. At the moment, I'm hearing that you gave them lots of information.
yeah.
And then you presented a set of options, more or less, for them to go and investigate, or at least
A
mention
map.
right. Mentioning rooms is a set of options. A map is a good example. So
Right, there wasn't any requirement to be in a room. I'm just saying, like, the castle had rooms, so that's where
I follow
naturally
it,
we ended up
but right
setting.
now I want to know, when did they start doing things that were not obviously, well, that's, I don't want to put it that way, that were not when did they start doing things that were not clearly options to choose?
I think I think already saying I wouldn't consider that an option to choose. Like, it was
Okay,
pretty
let me
open.
say, at the moment, it's closer to options to choose than it is to
Right.
what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. So I think that there's there were two types. So do you want the first instance or like just an example?
Let's say the first instance.
Okay, so the first instance is as they were presented with the scene of the crime. Actually, the second group has a better example because I decided in the second group that a guard would be posted in front of the door where the crime happened. So actually, they had a small conversation with this guard, and part of the preparation was that this guard was hiding some incompetence in the handling of the keys, right? And the player who was playing the character who had command over the guards decided, even though I didn't really particularly prompt that he wanted to pressure this guard on the possible incompetence of the patrols, and that triggered an investigation roll. And actually, that was a really, really good way of also presenting them the first investigation role and making them see that it doesn't need to happen at preset times or at preset interactions, right?
So that wasn't like some late stage revelation that solves things or something.
Right. Yeah, and then they triggered this investigation role, and then we went through the procedure. Which I'm not sure if you want to hear about that or not.
I do in a minute. I think what I want to, and maybe it's part of what I'm about to ask. I really liked, of course, your, the earn your cozy concept. And I was interested in what sort of mystery it became for each session.
I think one of the things that I'm learning is that it is really, really difficult to earn your cozy at the moment, in the sense that it does tend, just mathematically by how the probabilities are set, it does tend to quickly degenerate into the more conflictual type of conflict, like Name of the Rose style. So I'm not
degenerate. Maybe not the right word, but shall you say diverge there? Yes, or go that way.
I'm sorry. What?
I'm probably not going to make a big deal out of this. You use the word degenerated into, which is funny because the Name of the Rose style is usually considered, better literature than a cozy. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, degenerated into
it went that way.
Yeah. It went that way, yes. But it's because the situation went out of control.
It's just amusing to imagine the creator, like a novelist of a mystery, saying, "Damn it!" Then it got really important and conflictual and nuanced. How did that happen?
But I think I'm kind of okay with this. So I'm kind of okay with this. I don't think that the cozy should always, I think it should be, to an extent, difficult, right, to obtain. So I'm kind of fine with it. The time value ended up, I think, around 3 in both sessions, either 3 or 2. And in the second session, then some things happened fictionally, which then forced me to essentially manually move the time value, because those things that were on the kind of clock on the clock. There's sort of a PBTA style clock, or like a Apocalypse World style clock, I should say, with things that will happen when the timer reaches that value. Not necessarily they have to happen, but that's where the trajectory of the conflict is going.
About that, and I quite liked the whole point that you would actually literally be buying time through certain activities. How did that go? You said in the one, okay. I think I understood what you said about the second one, but tell me about the clocks.
So the problem that I had is that this is a thing that I need to fix, is that mathematically the other two resources that are not time, let's say that I misjudged the probabilities, so they're a little bit too difficult to lose. And so players would naturally risk their personal resources, like the health and reputation, rather than the shared time pool, which is something. So that happened very little. However, I still rolled for time in between scenes, And to counteract this, I decided already at the beginning, like I didn't decide through play to do this. I decided at the beginning that I would roll for time. Essentially, every time all characters had one scene, I'll just roll for time again, which is just a little bit accelerated. Like I would like it to be more player driven, but right now to fix the probabilities, that's what I ended up doing. And that ended up probably making the advancement of the time value more predictable as well, even though it was driven by dice. So this is something that I'm looking to fix by essentially making resource expenditure more more likely, so that it's more likely also that players will want to use the shared time value. The other thing that happened is that at a certain point at the end of the second session, essentially all the stuff started coming up to, let's say, to fruition, right? And so I essentially advanced it manually, in the sense that, like, fictionally it had advanced on its own without us needing to roll for it, because, you know, everything was out in the open at that point. So there's no point keeping the time value at 3. So I guess it kind of like it went up to 3 when the it went up to 3 when the let's say naturally with the dice, and then like it technically went down to 1 because, you know, all that needed to happen happened. So all needed to, I mean, all the hidden conflicts came out in the open. So effectively it was advanced fictionally by the players themselves interacting with the NPCs and the NPCs reacting to this.